There are real people living in 2026 with monthly expenses under $300. Not people who are suffering, not people who gave up comfort or dignity or modern conveniences, people who figured out a specific and replicable set of decisions that restructured their relationship with money so completely that the monthly financial obligations that consume 60 to 70% of the average American household's income simply do not exist in their lives. No mortgage payment, no rent, no electric bill, no gas bill, no water bill, no heating bill, no cooling bill, a grocery bill that is a fraction of what the average household pays because they produce a meaningful percentage of their own food. And they are not doing it by living in poverty. They are doing it by understanding something about the architecture of modern financial life that most people never examine because it is so normalized that it is invisible. The average American household in 2026 earns approximately $72,000 annually and spends approximately $68,000 of it. After housing, utilities, transportation, food, insurance, and debt payments, the typical American household has almost nothing left despite earning what should be a comfortable income. The people I am going to tell you about in this video looked at that picture and decided that the problem was not their income. The problem was the architecture. The monthly bill structure that modern life is built around is not a law of nature. It is a set of choices, and different choices produce a radically different financial life. Today, I am going to show you exactly how they made those choices, what it actually looks like to live with almost no monthly bills in 2026, and most importantly, what it actually costs in time, money, and lifestyle trade-off to get there, because this is not a fantasy, and it is not free, and the people selling it to you as effortless are leaving out the most important parts. Stay with me until the very end, because the final section reveals the one decision that every single person living this way made before anything else worked, and it is not the decision you are expecting. If you want content that gives you the honest, complete, and current picture of how people are actually restructuring their financial lives in 2026 rather than the highlight reel version, subscribe right now and hit the notification bell. I cover the real economics of alternative living every single week with more depth and honesty than anywhere else on this platform. Now, let us get into how this actually works. The architecture of the modern bill structure. Before we talk about how people eliminate bills, we need to understand what bills actually are and why the modern financial life produces so many of them, because understanding the architecture is the first step to redesigning it. Every monthly bill in a conventional household represents a dependency. You pay the electric company every month because you depend on their grid for power. You pay the water utility because you depend on their infrastructure for water. You pay the mortgage or the landlord because you depend on their capital to have a place to live. You pay the gas company because you depend on their fuel for heat. Each of these dependencies was a choice at some point, either your choice or a choice made by the culture around you that you absorbed without examining it. The average American household in 2026 has between 12 and 18 recurring monthly financial obligations. Each one represents a system they are renting access to rather than owning. The people who live with almost no monthly bills have done something systematic. They have replaced rented access with owned systems wherever the owned system is financially achievable and practically functional for their specific life. They own their shelter outright, or they built it in a way that eliminated the mortgage. They own their energy system in the form of a paid-for solar array that produces more electricity than they use. They own their water system in the form of a rainwater catchment cistern or a drilled well. They own their food production in the form of a productive garden and food forest. Each owned system eliminates a monthly bill permanently, and the elimination compounds over time in a way that changes not just their expenses, but their entire relationship with work and time and stress. Understanding this architecture makes the path clear, even if it does not make it easy. The question is never how do I spend less? The question is which dependencies can I eliminate by building or buying the system that replaces them? That reframe is the beginning of everything. The housing solution owning without a mortgage. Housing is the largest monthly bill for most American households, and eliminating it is the most transformative single step in the journey toward near-zero monthly expenses. In 2026, there are three distinct approaches that people are using to accomplish this. The first approach is owner-built alternative construction. The Earthship-inspired and natural building communities are producing a significant number of households in 2026 who built their own homes using recycled and low-cost materials for total construction costs between $20,000 and $80,000 depending on size, location, and build quality. A home built for $40,000 with owner-provided labor and salvage materials has no mortgage, because $40,000 is a manageable savings goal rather than a financial institution's lending decision. When your home costs $40,000 to build, and you build it yourself, your monthly housing cost is the property tax on land that costs $15,000 to $30,000. In most rural jurisdictions, that property tax runs between $100 and $300 per year, not per month. Per year. The second approach is rural land purchase and manufactured or modular housing placed on owned land. A quality manufactured home purchased outright runs $60,000 to $120,000 in 2026. On rural land purchased for $15,000 to $30,000, the total cost of owned shelter is between $75,000 and $150,000. For a household that has been renting at $2,000 per month, that is less than the rent they will pay in the next 7 years. Purchased outright, it produces a monthly housing cost of property taxes only. The third approach is the paid-off conventional home strategy, which sounds obvious but represents a genuinely different decision than the typical 30-year mortgage path. Households that aggressively paid down conventional mortgages in the low interest rate period of the early 2020s, making double or triple principal payments, have arrived in 2026 with their homes fully owned. Their monthly housing cost is property taxes, homeowners insurance, and maintenance reserves. Combined, these typically run $300 to $700 per month for a modest home, which is dramatically less than the $2,000 to $3,000 mortgage payment their neighbors are still carrying. The energy solution: owning your power supply. The second major bill category that people with near-zero monthly expenses have eliminated is energy. In 2026, the technology and economics of residential solar have crossed a threshold that makes genuine energy independence financially rational for a much wider population than at any previous point. A properly sized off-grid solar system for a modest, efficient home costs $8,000 to $20,000 installed in 2026 before the 30% federal residential clean energy tax credit. After the tax credit, the net cost runs $5,600 to $14,000. That is a one-time capital expense that eliminates the electric bill permanently for the system's operational life of 25 to 30 years for the panels and 10 to 15 years for the battery bank. The math on this is straightforward. An average American electric bill of $140 per month over 25 years is $42,000 in electricity payments. A solar system that costs $12,000 net eliminates $42,000 in future payments. Every month, the bill does not arrive represents money that stays in the household rather than going to the utility. The households living with near-zero monthly bills in 2026 have also addressed thermal energy, meaning heating and cooling, through passive solar design rather than mechanical systems. A home designed with the right orientation, sufficient thermal mass in the walls and floors, and the correct glazing ratio for its climate maintains comfortable interior temperatures through the physical properties of the building itself rather than through a furnace or air conditioning system that requires monthly fuel or electricity input. Passive solar design is not new technology. It is ancient technology that modern construction abandoned in favor of mechanical systems because mechanical systems were cheap to install even though they were expensive to operate. The people rebuilding their lives around near-zero monthly bills have returned to the physics-based approach because the physics do not send a monthly bill. For those who need supplemental heat in extended cold or cloudy periods, a wood stove burning locally sourced or personally cut firewood represents the lowest cost heating backup available. Firewood in most rural areas in 2026 is either free for the labor of cutting it on your own land or available for $100 to $200 per cord from local suppliers. A cord of wood provides significant supplemental heat for an efficiently designed small home through an entire winter heating season. The water solution, owning your water supply. Water is a monthly bill that most households have never questioned because it arrives as a small line item on a utility bill rather than as a dramatic expense. But the households living with near-zero monthly bills have eliminated this dependency too, and the approach is simpler and more affordable than most people expect. Rainwater harvesting is the primary water-independent strategy for off-grid and rural households in 2026. A metal roof catchment system collecting rainfall into a buried polyethylene cistern provides all household water needs at essentially zero ongoing cost after the installation is complete. The installation cost for a complete rainwater system, including metal roof catchment surface, gutters, first flush diverters, a 2,000 to 4,000 gallon buried cistern, and a multi-stage filtration system, bringing the water to drinking quality, runs $2,000 to $5,000 as a one-time investment. The ongoing operational cost of a rainwater system is the replacement of filter cartridges and UV sterilization lamps, which runs approximately $150 to $300 per year. A rural water delivery service providing equivalent water volume costs between $3,000 and $8,000 per year in most American rural markets in 2026. The rainwater system pays for itself in water cost savings within the first 12 to 18 months of operation, and then produces free water for the remaining life of the infrastructure. A drilled well represents a higher upfront cost, running $5,000 to $15,000 for drilling and pump installation, but produces essentially free water indefinitely with minimal maintenance costs. For households with appropriate hydrogeology on their property, a drilled well is a permanent one-time investment that eliminates water bills completely. The food solution. Producing before purchasing. Food is the bill category that most people assume is impossible to significantly reduce through self-production because the cultural narrative around food production is that it is a romantic hobby rather than a financially meaningful activity. The households living with near-zero monthly bills in 2026 have proven that narrative incorrect. But they have also been honest about the timeline and effort required to make it meaningful. The average American household spends approximately $800 to $1,200 per month on food in 2026 when groceries, household staples, and dining out are combined. The households producing meaningful quantities of their own food are not eliminating this expense entirely. They are reducing it by 30 to 60% at the 3 to 5 year mark of established food production, which represents a saving of $240 to $720 per month. At the higher end of that range, food self-sufficiency is one of the most financially significant bill reductions available. The food production systems that produce these results in 2026 include vegetable gardens producing a wide variety of annual crops, food forests of fruit, and nut trees that take 3 to 7 years to reach meaningful production, but then produce for decades with minimal input. Perennial food plants like asparagus, rhubarb, berry bushes, and herbs that establish in the first 2 years and then produce reliably without replanting, small-scale egg production from 4 to 6 laying hens that provides complete household egg self-sufficiency at a cost of approximately $15 per month in feed and food preservation practices, including canning, fermentation, and root cellaring that extend the productive season's output through the months when the garden is not producing. The honest timeline for meaningful food self-sufficiency on new land is 3 to 5 years. Year 1 is learning the soil and microclimate. Year 2 is beginning to correct what Year 1 revealed. Year 3 through 5 is when the compounding of soil improvement, established perennials, and accumulated knowledge begins to produce the 30 to 60% food cost reduction that makes the effort financially transformative. The transportation solution. Reducing the vehicle dependency. Transportation is the second largest expense category for most American households after housing, and it is one that the near-zero bills community has addressed in ways that range from radical to merely thoughtful. The average American household spends approximately $800 to $1,200 per month on transportation when car payments, insurance, fuel, and maintenance are combined. For households that have 2 vehicles with outstanding loans, this figure can reach $1,500 to $2,000 per month. Eliminating or dramatically reducing this expense is the third, most impactful financial move after housing and energy. The households with near-zero monthly bills typically own their vehicles outright rather than financing them. A reliable used vehicle purchased outright for $8,000 to $15,000 in 2026 produces no monthly car payment. Insurance on a paid-off older vehicle in a rural area with low accident risk runs $70 to $150 per month, rather than the $200 to $400 per month that urban comprehensive coverage on a finance vehicle costs. Fuel costs for a household that works from home are dramatically lower because the daily commute that drives most vehicle fuel consumption has been eliminated. Some households in the near-zero bills community have gone further, maintaining a single vehicle for a 2-adult household rather than 2, using an older but reliable vehicle that costs nothing in monthly payments, and doing basic maintenance themselves to eliminate routine service costs. A single paid-off older vehicle with rural insurance rates and minimal commuting fuel costs runs $150 to $250 per month in total transportation costs compared to the $800 to $1,200 national average. The debt elimination prerequisite. Here is the truth that most near-zero bills content conveniently skips. The households living with almost no monthly bills have almost no debt. That is not a coincidence. It is the prerequisite. Every monthly debt payment is a bill, and debt payments are among the stickiest and most expensive bills in the conventional financial structure. Consumer debt in the form of credit card balances, personal loans, and student loans generates monthly payments that are structurally similar to utility bills, but with the additional cruelty of compound interest that grows the obligation while you pay it. The average American household carries approximately $16,000 in credit card debt in 2026, generating minimum monthly payments of $300 to $400 at current interest rates. Student loan payments for households with significant educational debt run $300 to $800 per month. These payments are consuming financial capacity that could otherwise fund the capital investments, solar systems, land purchases, and water infrastructure that eliminate the utility bills. The near-zero bills, households almost universally went through a debt elimination phase before they could fully execute their bill elimination strategy. This phase typically lasted 2 to 5 years and involved aggressive debt payoff, reduced consumption spending, and deliberate accumulation of the capital needed to fund owned systems. The debt elimination phase is hard, unglamorous, and almost never featured in the inspiring content about people living without bills. But it is the foundation under everything else. The one decision that made everything else possible. Here is the final truth I promised you, the one decision that every single person living this way made before anything else worked, and it is not the decision you are expecting. The decision is not to buy land. It is not to build an Earthship. It is not to install solar panels. It is not to start a garden. Every one of those decisions follows from it, but none of them is it. The decision is to stop measuring their financial success by their income and start measuring it by their expenses. The entire structure of modern financial culture is built around the assumption that more income is the solution to financial stress. Earn more, spend accordingly, live better. The near-zero bills, households rejected that framing completely. They decided that their quality of life would be measured by how little they needed rather than how much they earned. That decision reoriented every subsequent choice. It made a $40,000 owner-built home feel like success rather than deprivation. It made a paid-off 8-year-old truck feel like freedom rather than embarrassment. It made a productive garden feel like wealth rather than labor. That shift in the measurement of success is not a minor psychological adjustment. It is a complete restructuring of the frame through which every financial decision is evaluated. And it is the reason that the near-zero bills life is not available to people who are pursuing it as a cost-cutting strategy while still measuring success the conventional way. It only becomes fully available when the measurement changes. The people living with almost no monthly bills in 2026 are not people who gave something up. They are people who changed what they were trying to have, and what they ended up with: time, autonomy, low stress, genuine ownership of the systems that sustain their lives, turns out to be more valuable to them than the things the monthly bill structure was supposed to be buying them in the first place. If this gave you a genuinely different way of thinking about how monthly bills are structured and how people are eliminating them in 2026, hit the like button because it helps this content reach the people who need it most. Subscribe for more honest content on alternative financial structures and off-grid living economics every week. Drop a comment telling me which monthly bill you most want to eliminate first, because I read every comment and respond personally. See you in the next one.